everybody. Thanks for joining me. It happened again. A Martin guitar with a headstock break. This break was abnormal in its way that it had a very blunt angle, and it's challenging to glue up something like this because when you put your clamps on the top and the bottom of it, it wants to slide apart. Especially after you add the glue, it wants to slip and slide. So I had to come up with some ideas here. I realized I had to hold it in place. I went and got one of these long rubber bands. I think they usually use it for wrapping around the fretboard when you're gluing the fretboard to the neck. Anyways, that kind of held it in place while I put those two, I put the bar clamp and the quick grip clamp on there. Also, another thing that I was able to decide to do on this one is use carbon fiber rods to reinforce it. And the reason I went with carbon fiber is because this one has a high pressure laminate face veneer on the peg head. It's like Formica or Pionite, micarta, you know, the high pressure laminate that you'd put on a kitchen countertop. That's what that stuff is. And I contacted Martin customer service to see if they could sell me a brand new one that wasn't broken, and they didn't have it. All they had was Indian rosewood. So I just used what I had. Another challenge was there's a little piece of missing wood. This is after the glue up. There's a little chunk of mahogany that's missing down here. You see the joint where the two pieces were glued together. It looks like a smiley face. Kind of looks like his smile is opened up and his teeth are kind of grinning at us. So my plan was to take this ribbon mahogany, African mahogany. They call it ribbon African mahogany veneer in the veneer world. And it's basically a quarter sawn African mahogany veneer. I learned this new technique of it's a 0.5 millimeter, or wait, 20,000ths of an inch, about 0.4 millimeters thick. So I start off by sanding the area, filling it in with a teeny bit of epoxy putty. This is something I learned on Ian Hates Guitars Patreon. I subscribed right as I got this guitar. I went ahead and subscribed to his channel, and really enjoying the stuff I'm learning. So you take the veneer and you press it in. First you sand off the repair area, and then you take that donor piece and you push it in there with super glue, and it's the gel type super glue. And then you sand it flush and add a little bit of color. In this case I used a little bit of Kalamazoo mahogany and red mahogany. Those are ColorTone Liquid dyes. I mix them with shellac. It's like a 2-pound cut of shellac. I mix it from flakes. It didn't look that great, so I went ahead and took some extra red mahogany in a pre-veil sprayer and went ahead and did a kind of a burst over the little area there where the joint or the break was. It looked really good, except for that. See all that orange peel? That's actually because the wood is not grain filled. Okay, so here's the front of the peg head without the high pressure laminate veneer. Below the two E strings you could see that little crack. And that's right where I'm going to do the carbon fiber rods. I'm going to plunge cut down into that with my Dremel. I used an 1/8 inch fluted bit on the Dremel and this template so that it could ride across the headstock in a parallel plane to the headstock. I took a hockey puck and cut it in half across and thickness to create a perfectly parallel surface. I'll show you here on the next clip. But the carbon fiber rods are from Stuart McDonald and they're 1/8 inch by 3/8. I'll put a link in the video description so you can see exactly what I used for the carbon fiber rods. In the process of gluing the carbon fiber rods back into the headstock, I used these quick grip clamps with some wax paper and some little bit of plexiglass material so I could see what the heck was going on maybe. Also, I got the GPS workstation here. This is a Tech Deck is what it's called, and it's from String Tech Workstations. You may have seen Mike McConville on here on YouTube talking about his techniques. There's the 2 carbon fiber rods. They were 2 inches long. Again, they're 1/8 inch across and 3/8 deep. This is hopefully going to give you guys some ideas of different ways to reinforce your headstock brakes, or maybe you can use the carbon fiber on some different repairs. I'm not sure. On the StewMac web page, it says that these carbon fiber rods can be used for headstock reinforcements. So they didn't have a video or any paragraph to describe how that might be done, but I'm kind of winging it here. That's why I wanted to share this with you. This is when I was gluing the high pressure laminate back on, and I used this little Gibson shaped template to make sure that everything's getting pressed down evenly. So what we're left with now is a big old crack. Say no to crack. Thinking about what I can put in this crack so that I can paint it and make it look better. I mean, it's like I can't make it look any worse. It's a big crack. This is what it looked like after squeezing in some epoxy putty. It really would have been nice of Martin customer service to provide me with one of these high pressure laminate veneers. That way it would look like nothing ever happened from the top side. But it is what it is. This is after I colored it in with some of the archival ink markers. Here I'm going to show you. Didn't look too bad. I ended up scuff sanding this and spraying on a little bit of satin lacquer. So that's with the epoxy putty and these 2 markers. I don't know, it's brown. This one's called Perfect Brown. It's a brush tip. I was kind of afraid to use this too much. Warming up the garage. We'll spray 2 coats of shellac, 2 coats of satin lacquer. Here's what it looked like after the 2 coats of shellac and the 1 coat of satin lacquer. I scuff sanded the high pressure laminate with 320 grit sandpaper first, then I sprayed the shellac, then the lacquer. So here's the carbon fiber material. It's 1/8 inch by 3/8, and it cuts with a hacksaw. I just placed mine in a vise and made the cut, and then it sands really easily. I was warned about making sure to wear gloves and protection, because these splinters, if they go into your skin, you'll never get them out, or when you try to get them out, it just breaks off and it's more painful. So beware of that if you use this stuff. So when I was making that plunge cut into the headstock, imagine this is the fingerboard right here, and it worked out great with the hockey puck. With the fretboard sitting down on this end and the hockey puck on that end, it was a perfectly parallel surface. So we'll imagine that being the fingerboard, and this being the end of the headstock. I put 1 clamp here, and it did not rock or wiggle at all. I was able to just go in and make my 2-inch long cut. And I didn't need to be perfect with the cut because I was filling it all in with a 5-minute epoxy. So there's an idea for you if you come across this situation. These will be very useful in other situations. So I would advise against the Perfect Brown. It got, when I sprayed the 2 coats of shellac and then the 1 coat of satin lacquer, it kind of smudged a little bit. I wasn't, I wish I wouldn't have used the perfect brown. I only dabbed it on a couple spots that are behind these two strings, which is okay. And what I ended up doing on the back was several coats of shellac. Some of them, the first ones were colored, and then yesterday I went ahead and hit it with extra fine steel wool. Actually, Dan Earlywine himself helped me in the kind of decision making process of this one. I was on a Zoom call with him, and he was asking me about this old, I guess it was a 1890s banjo that I was working on, and I said, we talked about that for a second, and I said my next dilemma is this, short grain thing, and I was really leaning towards whether I needed to lay in some wood splines here. And he said he wouldn't do it. He used to do stuff like that, but nowadays he does more of a back strap, or he would recommend a back strap where you take a rasp and you kind of plane this on down, and then you laminate veneers, which I'm definitely going to try in the future. But I think this one really presented itself with a unique situation, that this high pressure laminate I was able to take it off and then lay in those carbon fiber ones, and then stick it right back down and fill it in like that. So it's a really solid repair, and it sounds great. Let's give it a listen.